Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. This week we sit down with a repeat guest. I know, before you go on about it. It is Tony Zanders, but he has a new role here. He's a president and CEO of Nexus LA, and we go deep. We go deep into why it's here, what its existence is, what his plans are for the future of this place, and ultimately the impact it could have in Louisiana. Really great stuff ahead. Hope you tune in. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe and follow the show. We're here each and every week producing and publishing podcasts with business owners, business leaders right here in Louisiana. All thanks to Lakeman's Health Center and PB&J Productions. Y'all enjoy. So you are one of the exceptions to the Patty G Show, meaning you get a repeat visit.
Come on.
Yeah. There's I think there's actually only 3 people. You're now the 4th.
Come on.
Out of 260 episodes, Jay? 264 episodes. We've had 4 repeats. Now, the rules are always not the same business. That's it. Which warrants your appearance. X2.
Yep.
So, while you're in the skill type jacket, and we'll link your skill type episode to this one so folks can go and see the OG appearance.
Mm-hmm.
You're here for another very important reason, with the fact that you are now the president and CEO of Nexus, Louisiana, the very building in which we record this show in.
Rare air.
I know.
Yeah.
Rare air and exciting air to be in, nonetheless.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you. This is 260 episodes. I mean, first off, shout out to Patty G. That's not a small feat.
Yeah, it's six years in the making. We're going at it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Still here, still going strong.
Still feels like the beginning.
It does.
Yeah.
Because it's because we don't have the repeats, right? It's we're not doing the same thing. It's always something different, and it's always varying subject matter, which is still intriguing to me. I told my wife, so long as I still am enjoying sitting in the chair, I'll keep doing the show. It's the day I show up and I'm just don't then it'll just be flatline, he's done. Yeah. Patty's off.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't hit it yet, so we're here for it. But catch us up, man. What has been up since your episode 2 years ago, I think?
Yeah. Skill type still doing well. Tech startup now in 9 countries.
9 countries?
Yep. The rule for startups really is just, don't die, keep going, find a way. And we've been, that's how I define founders, people who found a way. You just keep going. And was, in the midst of just the product's been launched and we've just been, selling and supporting customers. We have about 300 customers now, likes of Notre Dame, UT Knoxville, pretty fun, University of Kentucky, a lot of SEC schools. But last November, I'm a member of the Nexus community. I'm aware of it. I've coached entrepreneurs here. I've gone to Brew. Never really considered myself one to think that I would be working at Nexus, at least the Nexus that I understood.
Right.
But
which was what, by the way, at the time that you understood it?
Yeah, I just thought that, and my experience with Nexus was, as this nonprofit based in Baton Rouge to support entrepreneurs, lowercase e, of all types. The events I've gone to for them don't just help, tech companies, but also small businesses. A lot of small business support that they used to offer. And over the years, Skill Type's not a small business. I'm not a small business owner. The way I define it, small business owners would be over the moon if they made $1 million, right? A startup founder would be grossly disappointed if all you made was $1 million. You want to make $1 billion, right? And that scale is one of the key distinctions. And so I kind of been, living and raising my family in Baton Rouge, but kind of grew disconnected from the organization because I didn't think it was really for me as I'm trying to scale and grow. So, but they've been without a CEO for a few years, and it was Thanksgiving week. We're sitting at home and my wife is like, have you considered applying for the Nexus CEO job. And I kind of laughed, like, no, like I know of Nexus, but I'm already a CEO. Like I've
right. Like I've already got a company.
Yeah. And she's like, but no, you should seriously consider it. And your wife says something like that, you're like, okay.
Rarely is she ever wrong.
Touche. That's words of wisdom. And so, long story short, I didn't not take it seriously. This is going to maybe offend some people, but
that's fine.
Got my resume. I haven't applied for a job in a long time.
I was about to say, like, skill type has been
5 years, going on 6.
Yeah, your world for a while.
Yeah, and so, but found the resume, uploaded it to ChatGPT, pulled the position description, the job description, added that in, and said, "Hey, write me a cover letter." And it produced this cover letter.
No.
And I applied.
But did you at least update your resume to include like skill type and all that, or did you leave that off?
That was already on there.
Okay.
That was already on there because I started skill type 2018, and so that was already on there. But yeah, I applied, and then I get a call back from the search firm out of Boston, like on a Friday, like 2 days later, and yeah, the rest was history.
Wonder if they use ChatGPT to read the resumes and say which one looks good.
Who knows? Not sure they'll admit that. I'm willing to. Yeah.
So you get the call back. Well, I mean, first you apply. So like clearly something about it at least sparked enough intrigue outside of your wife's subtle direction to actually do the application.
Totally. I think one of it was learning something about Nexus that I didn't know before. So the search firm did a really good job kind of profiling this organization. They're based out of Boston, and they wrote a really compelling narrative that pointed out that Nexus is actually a 30-year-old organization. It's the state's only statutory organization, like in the legislation.
Oh, really?
Focused on supporting high tech and innovation through research and development. Most entrepreneurship support organizations like Idea Village or others, they're not statutory. They're just kind of nonprofits. Not wrong or right, but just that's one type of org that we've come to know. This one's different. I mean, what I learned was, you had a group of some pretty forward-thinking legislators, like back in the 90s, that said, we want our state to not be left behind and to have an entity that partners with local research institutions to cultivate high-tech industries, plural.
Okay.
And that's not how I viewed Nexus. That's not how I viewed that nonprofit that I had experience with. And I became intrigued by that. I became sort of really interested in wondering, has it reached her potential? And I don't think that it has.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with you on that. I think that knowing, and I didn't know that beforehand, that it was a statutory organization within the state, like that's huge. Like why has it almost been on the back burner, so to speak? Because it's your understanding of it has always been my understanding of it, right? It's this not-profit co-work space that offers you a sophisticated-looking office for an inexpensive rate. And if you run into people in the hallways, that's great. That's wonderful. But knowing that there's actually a lot more thought that went into creating this and crafting it gives it almost this question mark for me of, okay, well, why have everybody else been trying to build up something else or create something new when we should have just been trying to figure out how to pump this fire?
Yeah, and it calls out, quote unquote, high tech.
Right.
Which high tech in 1992 was referring to whatever the most sophisticated technology was of that time. And so if you fast forward, almost 30 years, now it's asking the statute calls for that same interrogation. Like, what is the most sophisticated technology of our time today? Mm-hmm. And today, you're talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about robotics. You're talking about humanoid robots. You're talking about developing your own microchips so you become less reliant on Taiwan or China or others. you're talking about what some people refer to as like American dynamism and rethinking defense companies and defense contractors and building tools to help capture carbon out of the atmosphere and solve climate issues, right? Like that's high tech, right? And
that's serious tech.
Tech and both software, but also hardware. That wasn't what I associated with that organization. So when I read that description, I got excited.
It's right up in your alley.
Totally. And I'm learning so much, being 1 month into the job now. The founders that we have here are building fascinating things. I'm also at a season of life now. My oldest daughter's in 9th grade. She's at Baton Rouge High, and she's in the computer science club. A few months ago, and this was a pivotal moment, I think, that influenced me applying. I dropped her off at a hackathon at Goodwood Library on a Saturday. It was like 9 to 5, and pick her up afterwards. And her 9th grade team won 2nd place. They built an app that plugs into your Entergy utilities dashboard and sends you text message alerts when you exceed a certain level of electricity usage. And they built this in 8 hours using the Python programming language. And the lead coder on her 9th grade team, he's been coding in Python since 7th grade at Glasgow Middle. And I'm like, I asked the teacher, have you heard of Nexus? And she's like, no, what's that? The kids obviously hadn't heard of it. And then I was like, how'd you pay for this event? Because I ended up getting there with my daughter at the same time the teacher was setting up. So I helped her like carry in like this case of water. I'm like, just out of curiosity, ma'am, like who's helping fund this? Like who paid for the water and the pizza and things? And she's like, I pay for this out of my pocket.
Really?
And I was just like, man, like what? Back then, before I applied for the Nexus role, I was just like, what a missed opportunity. I was even thinking like Skill Type should be funding this.
Right.
And so fast forward, once I'm applying for the job, I just started to be impacted by it in a really personal way that, we talked about this in my last time on Patty G, just about the future of Baton Rouge and
right.
Wanting to create a Baton Rouge that our kids are excited to be in. Right. And so from a tech perspective, I'm looking ahead 10 years. I think about these types of roles in like 10-year increments. And by 2035, my vision is to have 1,000 tech founders, local, homegrown, in Baton Rouge with the technical skills to build interesting technology, not just like a salesperson with a cool idea. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm talking about the people who can actually bring these things to life. And if we want 1,000 of those types of people in 2035, that means today they're in 2nd grade. You look at that class of 2035 coming out of our high schools, like where are they today? And I don't look at this as, a short-term thing.
Right.
Like someone has to take the posture of, who's going to kind of plant the seeds and do the work that you might not see the result of in a year. Might look pretty boring, pretty, nothing's really happening in 1 year, but maybe after 4 years, you start to see some things. And who's going to have the patience? And I think that this role gives me the ability to do that.
And that exact idea and that exact line of thinking, I've seen it almost cripple us to a degree as a city, as a state, where when it's not so immediate, we lose interest. But then during the building of it, during the workings of it, all we do is like find a reason to get agitated. The college flyover is going to be a prime example of that, where it's painful right now. Mm-hmm. But through that pain is going to build something that will be transformative of how that intersection flows. But right now, everybody's like, this construction is just the worst. And we get too short-sighted to see what that long-term effect is going to be. And if we want that real change to matter, we have to see that construction is like, man, when this is done, it's going to be awesome. as you're sitting there for however long you're sitting. Like, this is going to be great when it's no longer like this, rather than like, why do they have to do this right now? Because we just get so moment in time focused of like, I'm trying to get here to there, but we don't see the bigger picture of what we're trying to build. And this role, like you're describing, is almost set up for you to have that exact mindset of, no. We're not going to focus on any of that. We're going to say in 10 years, where do we want to be? Great. It's going to take us that long to get there. It's not going to happen in a year. You're not coming in here saying, here's my 10-year plan. We're going to get it done in one. It's like, no. 10 years, people. 10 years is going to take to get there. And every single year along the way, every single day along the way is going to be a grind.
Yeah, I think you're describing that culture of just instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like we are the microwave generation. We want things instant. That's why DoorDash is successful, and all of these Amazon Prime 1-day delivery. We get frustrated when it takes 2 days. We want the same day delivery, and that might seem like these minuscule examples, but I think like psychologically, spiritually, it translates to how we feel about these longer term investments, and who's going to again have the maturity to hold a leadership role and manage expectations. So I think that's what makes me the most excited about it is, I feel like given my unique kind of niche and the set of skills that I've been fortunate to develop, it's a way that I can make a contribution to Baton Rouge. I'm not a real estate guy. I'm not, I don't come from oil and gas and those other industries that are kind of the backbone of our community, but kind of this one little way. And when it comes to technology and software and hardware, I feel like I can make a meaningful contribution.
So what was the first place out of that hackathon?
I don't know. It's a good question. But we're actually recruiting those same students.
That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. So June 17th through 19th, we just announced kind of my debut event. And it's going to be the state's first statewide technology competition. It's called the Nexus Technology Cup. And it's a 3-day event that celebrates all things tech that's being built in our state. And one of the tracks for the Tech Cup is the high school track. And so you're going to have high schoolers from across the 64 parishes competing both with hardware things they've built. Because you have like Baton Rouge High's robotics team nationally placed last year.
Really?
Yeah, they're legit. And the same for Ben Franklin, legit. And we want all those teams to sort of showcase, and we're going to be giving out $100,000 in cash prizes to them, split across the 2 days. And so the second day is all about software. So we'll have our high school track, and then we'll have our college track. And so we want to see, LSU competing against, Tulane and Louisiana Tech, and then finally we'll have an open track, which is for seasoned entrepreneurs, people years of experience building interesting technology. But yeah, so we'll, we had an in-person sort of Q&A session 2 nights ago, and we had a student from Baton Rouge High come in. He was a senior, and he had great questions, and he's like, I'm excited. And, his questions were around like, so the application deadline is April 30th. If I submit the demo of what I built by then, will I still be able to work on it and make it better by the June event? Like, that's a legit question. And
that's very valid.
I'm like, yeah, no. You can showcase, if you become a finalist, you can showcase the latest version of what you built as of like the morning of June 18th. Like, we don't care. So you had another 6 weeks to keep going. And I just loved that mindset he had. And it just got me thinking, that's just one student in one school in one city across the state.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be this beautiful thing to see, like, who else across the state has been in their bedrooms or their garages or their classrooms just kind of tinkering away. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. And so I'm personally just so excited to have a front row seat.
Right. Because like it's the competitions in years past have been more broad, right? It's been just, enter into more of a pitch competition, right? And that was the pattern. But now you're kind of going back to what were we originally designed to do, and let's put some resources and opportunities there.
Yeah, and I have some admitted biases
Of course.
against the pitch competitions. So Skill Type has never won a pitch competition. Like, we've raised $4.2 million in venture capital. We have lost every pitch competition that we've participated
In the state?
Yeah.
Or nationally too?
I don't think we did any national ones. I did local ones.
So on that, as much as you want to talk about, what was the feedback?
So the one that stands out the most is just like sort of ingrained in my conscience, was the guy who runs the program, who shall go unnamed.
Right.
We're friends, we're colleagues, everything's all good. But I didn't want to actually participate in the pitch competition. Skill Type was earning revenue already. I had investor conversations lined up, but they really wanted me to participate. So they're like, no, we think you should participate. I'm like, no, I'm going to opt out. It's a distraction, right? Because the act and the art of pitching a startup is not a natural part of building a business. It's not a muscle that is naturally used to build a startup. It's this extracurricular thing that's been designed for the investment community because it saves investors time soliciting ideas, vetting ideas, and they can get like dozens of ideas vetted all at once, and they get the luxury of sitting back and having the best ones rise to the top, and they can just write the check. So that, like, pitch competitions, in my view, that is an investor friendly tool. It's not a founder friendly tool. And in the natural course of building a startup, pitching at a competition on a stage isn't in the normal course of the work of building a startup. Most of the investment dollars you raise are raised in private one-on-one conversations. You are sending either cold emails to investors who then respond, and they're asking you to send them a pitch deck over email. This is all in private.
Right.
Or you get a warm introduction from another founder or another investor, and again, all in private. This idea of like a public staged event that's manufactured, it's unnatural. It's not a part of building successful tech companies. And you can tell the numbers suggest that. And so this one that I participated in, I participated in multiple. The guy who runs the organization said that the reason why I wasn't selected as a finalist.
So you weren't even selected as a finalist?
No. The reason was, according to him, was that I lacked conviction.
You lacked conviction.
Tony Zanders, lacked conviction. That was the reason he gave me. And I found that hard to believe.
Right.
It made me somewhat skeptical. And I felt that he was sort of just on the spot finding something to say. Because it's this sufficiently ambiguous answer that you can't measure. Like, you can't say he's wrong or prove that wrong. It's like subjective. What do you do with that?
Yeah. You kind of just, I mean, you just, like, you take it on the chin at that point and say, okay, and walk off. But
that's the option you're left with.
You know, or you respond and say, well, I lacked that because you told me to apply for it in the first place, and this was a distraction. So yeah, I wasn't in this particular competition because I'm focused on actually building it.
Yeah, and they had me work with the pitch coach, and not just me, all the founders, we work with the pitch coach, and the pitch coach was this sort of, what's a politically correct way to say this? Someone who's never built a tech company. Suffice it to say.
Got it.
And but they're super opinionated. They've never raised money, they've never, built technology, but are still somehow super opinionated, almost to the point of hubris about what needs to happen. And so if you're, fortunately for me, I was a second time founder by this point. This wasn't my first rodeo, but I empathize with a lot of the first time founders who are so impressionable. They're so vulnerable. And you have this person who's being presented to you as an expert on pitching. And so when they say, hey, you need to change this, or you need to tweak this, or you need to do that, as a first time founder, you're going to listen because you're part of this community now, this accelerator or this incubator. And they're saying, here are the experts we've brought on to help you be successful. So you're like, okay.
Great. Great. Give me the expert advice. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll listen. And even if they're just going to just drive you straight into the garbage. And so yeah, that was a memory lane. I haven't gone down in a while, but no, I mean, yeah, we've never won a pitch competition. Didn't again stop us from being successful, raising money, keeping the business going. We're crossing $1 million in annual recurring revenue now. Yeah, things are going well. And so my now kind of hindsight 2020 view is, now that I'm at Nexus, I'm not interested in pitch competitions. I don't think that they are founder friendly, because you go through a lot of mental cycles preparing for these things, and the reward isn't sort of proportionate to the work you put in. I'd rather have founders spend that time preparing to sell their product to customers or to users, or preparing for those private conversations with investors.
Because the private conversations are far different than something in the public. Because I've been on both sides of the table, just within my line of work, where we're listening to people come talk to us and present decks and do all that thing to sort out deals. And it's a very targeted pitch. It's a very targeted pitch. Like, so much so, like, we've gotten briefs like with our names on them. Like, this is the brief for you. And I'm sitting there with my partner. I'm like, okay, like, they've done research on us, because they know that we're looking at it and going to evaluate with this certain parameters in mind. And so on the pitch competition side, you're trying to make it look as pretty as possible. You're trying to put out there words that are going to grab people, attention-seeking items and displays and visuals. And I can't recall what movie it was from, but there was a line where somebody was working in a startup and they were going through all this stuff, getting ready to pitch to an investor. And the guy said, oh, our revenue number is going to be this. And someone stood up and was like, no, pre-revenue. Never have revenue. Because as soon as you start pitching what revenue you're going to make in a pitch competition or with an investor, it's never enough. So you always say, we're pre-revenue.
That sounds like an episode of Silicon Valley.
I think it was.
Yeah. That's true.
And it's the same thing when you're going to a pitch competition. When I was at LSU, we prepared different pitches for entrepreneurship classes, and we're filling out this template, and the person helping advise us along the way was like, okay, you want to make roughly this ask. You're going to get nowhere near it, but like this, you have to make this ask. Otherwise, I'm not going to take you serious. And I'm like, but we don't need that. He's like, I know. But like, if you get it, they're going to mark it down and give you this much, and then you get what you need. I'm like, but why can't we just tell them exactly what we need and show them exactly how we're going to deploy it? You're having me artificially inflate these numbers, because at the end of the day, your numbers slide is your most important slide.
The ask.
But it's not. I'm like, but it's like, we don't need all this. And he said, no, but that's how you have to pitch it. And it's just like, have we become so just in romanticizing pitching, romanticizing what Shark Tank has created. And they've done it well because it's a private setting. They've taken a private setting and filmed it. And we don't, I guess whoever's making the pitch competitions don't recognize that moment. They're just like, oh, it's Shark Tank style. Let's bring in the community. Let's bring in the crowds, because it's a fun event. We get to be social at it. But as you're pitching, it's like, why am I, like, I had a friend of mine who won a competition, and he was like, I didn't need to be in it. I didn't need the money. They were like, come and do it, and it'll be good. You'll draw a crowd, and we'll be able to write about it. We'll be able to publish it. We'll be able to get it out there. And he was like, yeah, the check's in the drawer somewhere. He's like, I couldn't. He's like, I haven't. He's like, I just didn't need it. But he spent and went through everything they said to do, pitched it so well, and they said, absolutely, you get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, again, I'm not interested in saying whether they should exist or not, or they should happen or not. When we have founders at Nexus and they're, I'm in the position to coach them, I say, go through whatever it is you got to go through to raise the money you need to raise, go and pitch. But I want to share some cautionary tales with you. I just want to manage your expectations, right? Because if your heart's not in it, you're not sort of banking on it happening as sort of your lifeblood, as you're the gas in your tank to keep going. It's just one of many things you have to potentially work. If it doesn't, okay. I think that's a better approach to going into these, because the criteria are oftentimes ambiguous. Whether you win is outside of your control. And the biggest toll I think that's underrated and unspoken is kind of that psychological toll it takes when you do all this work, you get worked up, and then you lose. That's really hard. And it's an unnecessary hard. You didn't have to go through that. The startup journey is already pretty hard enough.
Right.
In the context of you doing the things that are core to building the business. So, pitching to customers, trying to get people, sell the product to people to pay or use it. You're going to hear no most of the time in that case, but you can kind of rationalize that because this is what I have to do to build the business. It's harder to kind of cope when you lose, and then you lose in public and you lose in front of hundreds of people, and you didn't have to do it. That's harder. And it's unnecessary. It's flagrant. And so I share that with folks. I don't judge them if they do it. But at Nexus, now that I'm in the sort of driver's seat here, we're no longer doing them. And so within my first month, I canceled Brew, the Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week.
You canceled the whole event?
The whole event.
Okay, why? I know it's got the pitch competition element of it.
Yeah, high stakes pitch was one component of it, but the whole thing.
Okay.
I think a couple reasons. One, over the years, I wasn't one of the early Brew participants. I think a good faith interpretation would be, in the early days, it was sort of as it was suggested. It was focused on high tech or high potential startups, high scale startups. That could be the case. I wasn't around for that. In recent years, it started to become more of like a small business bazaar. And I've had to do a lot of sort of explanation and recalibration on the distinction. And it's not that there's anything wrong with small businesses. They are the backbone of America and our local community. But Nexus has a specific statute that actually, for all intents and purposes, isn't open for interpretation. Like, you can read it and see that it's focused on high tech and innovation through research and development. And so the key, like one example I'll give is, there's nothing wrong with starting a landscaping business. One of my good neighbors has his own Roche Landscaping. You may have seen his trucks around, Ricky Roche, doing really well for himself. Ricky would be really excited, again, to clear $1 million. But that's not the statute that these legislators in the 90s wrote for us. Our statute requires Nexus to focus on not the landscaping business, but people who are reinventing the lawnmower. So if you want to create a new lawnmower that uses, say, solar power, and it's portable, you can, clean it with a hose and put it into your trunk, and it's half the weight of the traditional lawnmower. If you want to create that new technology, that's where we fall on the landscaping spectrum.
Got it.
Same thing, like if you wanted to open up a laundromat, we're not statutorily required to help you. So you come to us wanting to open a laundromat, it's our team's job to congratulate you on that new venture, but share and refer you to our partners in the community, the Small Business Administration, SBA, or the SBDC, or there's other groups to go to get that small business off the ground. But our job is to help the folks that want to create a new laundry machine that's more energy efficient and that uses, 50% of the water that the last one does. And so we have space in real estate for producing new hardware like this. And so if you want us to start tinkering on a new laundry machine and you need a place to weld and to like create the computer chips, and like that's what Nexus is.
Yeah.
And we have founders that are building really interesting things here that take a lot of upfront capital and time. And so, it's our job to create the environment, the necessary environment for new technology to come to life. And to be patient in doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just we've got office space, come rent. You're now in a position to evaluate those tenants in the building and say who's fulfilling our statutory requirement. And I mean, what do you do at that point if you've got somebody who's necessarily not?
So a couple things. It all starts with the conversation. And, Nexus, Louisiana is a public agency. It's a public trust. We're funded by tax dollars from East Baton Rouge Parish to fulfill the tenets of our statute. When I'm meeting with our founders, which I've started I'm in month 2 now. And so I'm starting
so that's only 30 days in.
Yeah. And, which I love meeting with founders. I'll do it every day. Like my wife was saying, you do this in your free time, you might as well get paid for it. And so, it's about communicating to them, hey, this is, who I am. I'm a software founder. I'm building tech. I understand what you're trying to do. Here's our statute. I want to hear and learn more about what you're trying to do and where your business is and what you're focused on. And for the ones that fall outside of that statute, explain to them why and how. And it's not to say that we won't ever serve them, right? You, through maybe listening to me and learning more about the statute, you might become interested in building tech. No one has a monopoly on building technology. You can be young or old, you can be, boy or girl. We're in this interesting generation where building technology is becoming more feasible, more affordable. And all you have to be, the prerequisite is just for you to be really passionate and obsessed with solving a problem. Like that's the prerequisite. All the requisite skills to bring that idea to life can be learned. And so this isn't us making a statement saying we don't work with certain types of people or like, no. Anyone can sort of get and benefit from our programs and our services, but we can't lower the bar from what our statute holds us to. We have to kind of keep the bar and hold the standard. And so we've had a couple of these conversations already. It's no hard feelings. But that's a part of the work. I'd rather, support 12 companies that are statute aligned. They're building community with each other, as opposed to 40 just for the sake of having bigger numbers.
Yeah.
But it's hard to kind of justify using our taxpayer dollars for a purpose that we weren't created to do.
Well, I think it can always go back to that point specifically about the taxpayer dollars being allocated for this particular organization. And it's kind of all of the recent buzz on how our dollars are being spent. It's a hot topic. Everyone and anyone's got an opinion about it and how it's operating. But taking that own look internally here, I think is necessary because, to your point, there hasn't been a real there hasn't been a person that has your same title for however long it has been. And so no
3
one's
years.
been giving that thought of how do we look at the statutory title? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? It's just been, oh yeah, we've got these events. Like, it was maybe trying to cast too wide of a net and saying, let's just be something to everyone rather than being exactly what a few people need. And then cultivating that entire just culture of high tech and having people look at it from the outside and going, oh, well, if you want to develop new technology, you need to be at Nexus. Not because you're a new entrepreneur that's got a new lawnscaping business that you're trying to get off the ground. Like, here's to your point. Here are the other resources you can reach out to.
And that's part of our job. You know, I'm all about soft landings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about the assist. You know, the answer to someone trying to do something good, trying to build something special, no matter how big or small their ambition is, the answer should never be no. It should be maybe not here or not now, but let me refer you. Let me introduce you to where you should go. And so right now we're just training our team on that assist and having those relationships, because we exist in an ecosystem. We have partners, other taxpayer funded agencies, other private organizations. We're just one piece of this puzzle. And so we have to clearly define at Nexus who we serve, who we don't serve. At what stage in the entrepreneurial journey do we come in? At what stage do we hand off and we no longer participate? Some of the folks we part ways with, just in this exercise of aligning with the statute, are folks that frankly no longer need our services, right? Like, the statute calls out Nexus as an incubator. Incubation has sort of a start and end date. And if I met with the founder recently, really sharp guy, building interesting things. He's been in our space for 15 years. And
Same business?
Same business. Close to 30 employees, doing well.
Wow.
I struggle to justify that against our statute. I think that there has to be this notion of graduation and offboarding as a positive thing, as something to celebrate, that this is a milestone. And so like the parameters, just to like the brass tacks of it, we're mandated to start with folks who have at that idea stage. And so we have a program called Ignition, and Ignition is a partnership with LSU to help someone go from an idea, from a problem they want to solve, to productizing that idea. So by the end of this 8-week program, our commitment to you with your idea is you'll have if it's a software product you want to build, you'll have a URL to a prototype that you can show to customers or users or investors. And we'll do that for you in 8 weeks. And we'll do that for you even if you're non-technical, even if you don't know how to code. And then you can sort of graduate from that program and you have this prototype and you're ready now to either sell it or raise money. And then you can sort of graduate into, once you start making money, you can pay us rent for us to incubate you and to be a member of Nexus, quote unquote. And so that's kind of that intake process. If you raise a Series A investment round or even a seed round, say you raise $5 million and you hire 10 people, right? You don't need us anymore. You're off to the races. You have been successfully incubated. You have taken that idea and now you have turned it into a real business. Surely you haven't met all the milestones and you haven't, quote unquote, succeeded. But it's hard for us to say we're still incubating you at that point. Right. And so for us, the sweet spot is really, founding teams, tech founders, where it's maybe a single founder. Maybe it's a team of co-founders, 2 people. I'd say 3 people max. And we want to have, 20 of those or so split across hardware technology that they're building, physical tools, and software. But if you got 9 employees, you're still a startup. But to me, that's not incubation. You probably need to go lease space from one of our wonderful real estate developers across the city, of which there are many.
Right.
But as you mentioned, it's a hot topic right now. You talk about the Department of Governmental Efficiency, affectionately known as DOGE, right? Like there's federal trends to really scrutinize where are taxpayer dollars being spent. That's rolling down to our state level. Governor Landry's talked about it. He's in the White House a good bit. It's even rolling down to our city level, right? Our libraries, who are some of the most fiscally responsible spenders in the city. Even they're being scrutinized. Like, where's your money going? And, not saying even whether that's wrong or right. I think that situation concluded the way it concluded. But surely Nexus is subject to the same accountability.
Right.
So that's certainly influencing kind of where we are today.
Yeah. Look, no one is exempt from having an audit. Being in the tax world, no one's exempt from an audit. And so if anyone is susceptible to having their hood opened and peeked under to see if everything's right, we should all kind of expect that same thing to occur frequently. I mean, not every single year would be great, but it's like there comes a certain point in time when things have just get mundane and routine, and you're like, okay, maybe we need to evaluate and go back to why were we founded? Why were we initially kicked off to be something? Have we strayed too far off of that original thesis? And if so, we got to get back in line. Or do we re-look at how it was written? Is that still necessary now? Because of everything else that's changed over the last 20 years. Is it still necessary to abide by that statute? Do we change it? But it's like at this point, it's all over the map. It's like we've got to come back to common ground first, figure out what we were supposed to be, go forward, and then make a plan.
I think getting back to first principles is key.
Yeah.
Internally, but then starting to kind of communicate that to our stakeholders. So we have, almost 28 or so tech founders here. We owe them strong communication. We owe them clear expectations and kind of updates on who we are and where we are. We also have other stakeholders as well that we have to kind of, draw bright lines. Here's what we do. Here's what we don't do, so that everyone can start to see, okay, where do we fit? And I just think that's being a responsible member of the community. So these aren't difficult conversations as much as, it's important to have the nuance to communicate. This isn't a comment on you as a person. This isn't a comment on the potential of the business you're working on.
Yeah.
This is just sort of us being responsible because everyone's funding this organization. And if we're successful, everyone will benefit.
Yep. Look, you don't go to Cane's and get a shrimp basket.
Nope.
It's just not what they're built for.
Yep.
It's not what they're around to do and serve. They've got a specific purpose, specific product. Nexus is the same thing.
Yep.
And you've got to, as your role is turning out, you've got to kind of almost come in and, for lack of a better term, be the bad guy and come in and say, we haven't been doing what we were supposed to be doing. So really, whatever has transpired should have not originally transpired.
It's unfortunate, but I'm sort of embracing being in my villain era.
Yeah. I mean, without that, nothing will get better. Nothing will change. And it will minimize the potential that we have as a state to be put on the map as a tech hub.
Yeah, This is the single most exciting time to be building technology. And there's been this kind of shift in thinking of conventional wisdom around where technology can be built and where it can't be built. Before the pandemic, it was conventional wisdom that in order to build interesting things, you had to be in Silicon Valley or you had to be in a Silicon Valley equivalent,
Right.
i.e. New York City, Seattle, Austin, LA. The pandemic changed that. A lot of that talent started to move into places because of trends around remote work that were more affordable to live in. We couldn't physically be in proximity, so you could be working for Google in Mountain View from Wyoming. Louisiana got a lot of that talent. We have people in New Orleans and Baton Rouge now that are working for top tech companies. They still live there and work there still till today. Investors also started to become more comfortable investing in companies regardless of location because of this same trend. I remember Skill Type raised our first outside investment. It was January 2021. My first investor, Brian Phillips, he's based in New York on a farm. And I got introduced to him by a woman named Sabrina Short. She runs an organization in New Orleans called No Love Black. I got a call from her one day saying, "Hey, Tony, are you raising? Because I have this investor who found me on Google who's asking if there are any companies or referrals," right? And so I say, "Yeah, we're actually raising." And she does an email intro. I set up a call with this guy, Brian. We have a Zoom call. The email intro was on a Tuesday. We had a Zoom call on a Thursday. I had a term sheet for a $400,000 investment at a $4 million valuation that Friday. Never met him, never shook his hand. This happened over email, Zoom, and eventually DocuSign. And within a matter of 72, 96 hours.
Wow.
And that was a moment that was eye-opening for me because I started my career in the Valley. I moved to Boston and worked in Boston. And I saw how the traditional fundraising landscape worked. COVID changed everything. And so fast forward to today, we've since gone on to raise, 10 times that from investors that are in all over the world. We have a London investor, we have a Miami one, we have a San Mateo one in the Bay. I didn't meet my London investor until maybe a year or two after, in person, I mean.
Yeah.
I think the rules have changed and we have to update our thinking on the conventional wisdom of starting tech companies, funding them. The conclusion of the matter, I think, is that Louisiana is no longer this like 51st state for all of the things people like to just say we are.
Yeah.
It's like they get something out of it. It's like, well, why are you here? Move to the first state. Oh, wait, you can't compete there. So you're stuck here. And that's outdated thinking. That whole first to 51st ranking, it is quantitative and it is the case in some metrics that can be measured. But I think some people lazily start to apply that to everything, even stuff that can't be measured. And when it comes to starting tech companies, we're not 51st. Louisiana is a hugely important state, culturally speaking. People love Louisiana. They love to come here for our food, for our music, for our culture. And you can build technology from anywhere now. People are building technology from the places they love. We are one of the places they love. And there's no ranking system for that. But I promise you, if you ask quality tech founders, where would you prefer to build your tech company? Surely we're not 51st. We're over Mississippi. We're over Idaho. We're over Nebraska. We're over the Dakotas. We are a preferable state to build and live over Oklahoma, over Illinois, minus maybe Chicago, right? And so this is I'm not interested in just kind of my opinion on the matter. At Nexus, as the CEO, we're proving it. We're recruiting companies to come to Baton Rouge and take advantage of these benefits. We have companies relocating here from Texas, like this month.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Forget about Louisiana for a moment and just focus on Baton Rouge. I mean, Baton Rouge is an institution. Garth Brooks came here and started an earthquake. Like, that's not happening in just any city. People come to LSU games from around the world, right? These are cultural institutions that translate into livability, places that people want to build. And so now that you can build tech from anywhere, and I want to get specific, like when it comes to software, the software that you're building is hosted in the cloud, and it's inside of what's called like a repository, like a code repository on a website like GitHub. And you can have people, coders, writing code into that repository from all around the world. And you can do it from Louisiana. And so this is just this new generation of building software that it's part of our job to educate people on this so we can update our conventional wisdom on where to build and where you can build. You couple that with just sort of the livability of Baton Rouge, the ability to buy your first home, right? The ability to have world-class food, the ability to pursue the American dream, and have an affordable cost of living, take a vacation every once in a while, have world-class entertainment, sports, music. You got people in San Francisco, grown men, 5 guys living in an apartment like it's in their 30s because it's unaffordable. And so there comes a point in when you start to question, like, and there is this argument like, oh, you got to go to San Francisco if you want to build an AI. And I'm kind of spoiled. I was there for 4 years. I kind of took away a lot of the work ethic and the culture. But the hack is to experience it, but then take that experience and then go somewhere else where you have a decent quality of life.
A decent quality of life, and also the ability to have a direct impact. You mentioned it earlier. You can't. The reason those folks complain that we're 51st, and then if you tell them, okay, we'll go ahead and try to go somewhere else, they can't compete, is because it's the case. You go to a place like a Dallas, and you just drive down the interstate, for an example. You're one in thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that are driving on that road every single day. And you go to any establishment in there, wherever you're living, and you're looking around and you don't recognize anybody. I got to go to the grocery store on the way home from this, and I promise you I'll see one person that I know at the grocery store.
Come on.
And you can't really get that much else outside of the Dakotas because there's 24 people there. But like when you're in a community that's that closely knit, where people are interacting, people are living and raising their family around one another, and you see them outside of the professional setting, it's powerful. Because I can see somebody make a 1 or 2 minute conversation impact the decision we're going to make the next day or the next week in business. You go somewhere that's a big metropolitan center that's got a bunch of people way outnumbering us, you're not going to experience that. You're going to sit in line at some store, not pick your head up, and rarely interact with somebody. Where in Louisiana, you're going to be walking down and people are just going to talk to you. I've playing with my kids on the street, and we had 3 cars stop by and want to talk to my kids, and just not nothing creepy. Don't get the wrong idea.
Yeah.
Just genuine people driving through, passing through, saying, hey, buddy, love that little four-wheeler or whatever you're riding on, love that little bike, and I'm with them and talking with them, and then I just strike up a conversation with them, and then it's just great, have a good day, and they drive off. You're not really going to get that anywhere else that I've heard of. You're always going to be, oh yeah, it took us 2 years to figure out the name of our neighbor. It took us 3 years before we even had dinner with them, and we still don't really hang out outside of morning, Bill, morning, walk back in.
There's a Southern hospitality element to it. But again, Louisiana has certain things in spades. And one of my founders told me the other day, they were comparing, between Houston and here, and made the point that the city of Houston has more people than the state of Louisiana.
The city of Houston has more people than the state
of Louisiana.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like over 4 million Houstonians. Louisiana only has about 4 million people. And it's just to your point.
Right.
But we're very fortunate, though, to have Baton Rouge, which I think the college town state capital combo is one of America's most successful and amazing experiments. You won't find it in any other country around the world. This idea that you have a state capital, so a policy seat with all the government infrastructure, with the flagship research institution, and all of the different services and amenities that sort of crop up around those two concentric circles. Like, it's a really interesting concept. It's not a major city, a tier 1 city. It's like a LA or New York. That's much bigger than what I'm referring to. Mm-hmm. You have these mega cities all around the world, from Shanghai and Paris and Singapore and others. I'm talking about like this sort of tier 3 city that's smaller. So I'm thinking about like the Baton Rouges of the world, Columbus, Ohio, Austin. Where else would be a good example? Tallahassee, state capital, flagship institution in Florida State. And as a result, you have diversity, you have a high level of education, you have a high level of corporate jobs, government officials. And all those folks want amenities. They want sports teams, and they want, things to do at night, right? And but again, since it's not like that tier 1 city, it has the affordability element. It's easy to wrap your head around. And since it's not like this major urban population center, you still get to know people like you just gave that story of.
Yeah, and it's fascinating that people will kind of do this boomerang, which is, there's some greatness with it, that they can go and get a different experience and then come back. Because when you hear them and they say, oh yeah, I went out to Silicon Valley, I went out to New York, and it was so great over there, but it was just me. They end up winding to be so alone in such a vast city.
There's a loneliness epidemic that's real, and it is a problem to be solved. I'm not sure if technology is the answer. I think it could help, but it's a real problem. There's an epidemic in the U.S. For sure, and the major cities are contributing to it. Like I tell people all the time, like you go to New York if you sort of want to fit in and not be noticed and sort of just be obscure, where you'll have 10,000 people on the corner of the block waiting for the traffic light to change for them to walk. And no one notices you when you're in New York. You go to LA when you want to be seen and noticed. And those are kind of the two dynamics of those kind of large cities. Maybe in some of the enclaves in those large places, you do have community. Like, cause I have, people in New York, for example, there'll be you don't really have to leave your neighborhood, like your block. You might catch the train and go to work, but you come back, you go to the same bodega, the same grocery store, the same and there is no reason to leave that. You go to the same piece of shop, you go to the same, so there are these like hyper local experiences where there are communities. But unless you find that may take years to find.
Right.
Whereas here we have this kind of just this multi-generational sense of community.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out, Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
I think about like Jazz Fest New Orleans, and you could just be walking up the street in mid-city. Someone's going to offer you a plate of food. You know, if you got to use the restroom, you can just, there are going to be people on their porch. They're going to say, "Hey, baby." Mm-hmm. They're going to, and it's a culture that it's why people love coming here.
Yeah, it's why they come down for all the festivals and events that we have. I mean, we just saw it with the three major events in a row in New Orleans, with Super Bowl, with Mardi Gras,
Sugar Bowl,
which
tragic incident happened there. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, in her resilience, was able to just come back though in a unified way. And yeah, it's something that we have in spades.
Yeah.
And now we're in the middle of festival season. And this is an interesting topic because Baton Rouge has tried to emulate that.
Yeah.
And, in a way, this is tangentially related to why I decided to cancel Brew. Because part of me thinks that Brew was conceived from a imposter syndrome mindset. Like, you have New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week, and that predates Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week. You won't find a 70-mile radius anywhere in the country that has multiple entrepreneurship weeks. It's like, if you want an entrepreneurship week in Southeast Louisiana, get in your car, drive down to New Orleans, experience the entrepreneurship week.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to have our own carbon copy of that. New Orleans does festivals really well. There's just so many ingredients in that gumbo that it just works. And they have the momentum and velocity of doing it for decades upon decades. I think there's a different version of galvanizing community, celebrating things that Baton Rouge can own and discover. I think one of them is our college football tailgates. This is a cultural institution. There's nothing like it anywhere around the country or the world. And New Orleans has nothing like it, by the way. Like, it is like, we are superior when it comes.
Can't compete. Yeah.
They can't compete. Right. What are the other versions of that we just do really well? It's us looking internally, not trying to copy or say, let's do this because they did it. There's a lot of the stuff we do downtown now around, between the new library and the state capitol, not the state capitol, the old state capitol. like the whole Live After 5 and the night market that brings out all the food vendors. That's awesome. Like, keep pushing in that direction, right? Of figuring out what does celebrating Baton Rouge look like.
Yeah. I think you hit it spot on. And I've actually had conversations with this with some other folks of like, what does Baton Rouge, like, what's our identity? You know, we started talking about the historical elements of, you know, why was Baton Rouge picked to be the capital city? River being a big driving factor with commerce and being able to do a lot of things at the port. And then you've also got the mindset that, well, we couldn't have New Orleans because we couldn't get any work done. Nobody would be of sound mind and body to get work done.
Friday, 3 p.m. earliest happy hour in the country.
Friday at 11. I think it starts with brunch. So you've got New Orleans that's got that just element where you oftentimes have people say, I went to New Orleans for the first week, and you say, well, how, like, for the first time ever for a weekend? You ask them, well, how was it? Like, I don't know. And so Baton Rouge kind of became this workhorse where you would go to the New Orleans on the weekends, and then you come and stay in downtown Baton Rouge and get stuff done. Like, your work week, you were productive, you were hardworking, and in all of a sudden kind of just stuck. And it's like, we've got to go back to why were we the capital? Why were we established the way that we were? Pull out from there the nuggets and then put that out on our megaphone. Don't try to say, well, New Orleans does Jazz Fest. Let's do Rouge Fest, or, you know, like, let's try to do something similar to these other people. Like, let's just dig in and figure out what made us the Red Stick, why were we where we were, and double down. We don't need to pull and try to just reimage, you know, copy and paste. Like,
no, it's to this point, like, one of my investors, Corey Tisdale, he's a LSU guy, helped found Barbecue Guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, great guy, salt of the earth. When I meet with him, we don't meet in New Orleans anymore. So the convening spot, the watering hole for tech startups in New Orleans used to be, it still is in most part, it's the warehouse district. So like Camp, Andrew Higgins, by like Lee Circle, like, so the shop, the CAC, World War II Museum, like that neighborhood is kind of the highest concentration of tech startups in New Orleans. It's too distracting. It's hard to get stuff done. Corey has us meeting now in Metairie. We're in like one of these like dystopian Severance office parks. Have you seen Severance? Okay.
I mean,
that reference will mean something if you watch the show on Apple.
I've seen like commercials for it, but I haven't seen the show.
It's a great series, but we're meeting in kind of, you know, just one of these bland office parks in Metairie for the uninitiated. It's like, you know, the suburb of New Orleans, the suburb. But you look at your watch, it's 4 p.m. You got stuff done. It's like, man, everyone's not trying to high five you. Hey, Tony. Hey, Patty G. How's it going? You know, New Orleans is a party. And so that was one anecdote that stood out when I was listening to you. The other thing I think about when I was listening to you, you know, one of the biggest critiques of Baton Rouge is like, oh, there's nothing to do here. Oh, the downtown's asleep at 5 o'clock. There's no nightlife. You know, like, you've heard this kind of argument, this line of thinking.
Yep.
And, you know, when I think about it, it's almost the exact same critique people have of Silicon Valley. Like, there's nothing to do, quote unquote, in Mountain View and Sunnyvale, Redwood City, you know. These are sleepy little like enclaves that every single interstate has not hundreds, but thousands of tech startups all across that entire area. Like it's like $1 trillion of GDP produced from technology from like a 80-mile radius.
Yeah.
That is has the worst nightlife. It's the most boring. There are no festival. Like there's nothing fun.
It's because they're just working.
They're working. And they've put up this bat signal. The bat signal reaches the entire world at this point to signal people who want to build. If you want to have fun, there's all these other places you can go, but we're going to own the fact that we're not fun. Like we're just going to own it.
Yeah.
We're not going to have imposter syndrome about it. We're going to own it. And we're going to just sort of organize ourselves in a way that creates this environment for people to change the world. You make your money here, then go on vacation for 6 months. Go have all the fun you want.
Yeah. And
I think it's possible here. Like one of the anecdotes is like you'll see people 10 p.m. on a random street corner in the valley, just with like laptops talking 11 p.m. Like just they just finish a coding session. The restaurant closed.
They got kicked out.
And they're just like around talking, I can see downtown Baton Rouge becoming that type of vibe. You have IBM there now. I'm interested to see what Nexus's role is real estate wise downtown. You have LED, which is our state economic development arm, has a new $60 million initiative around innovation and AI. They're going right downtown. Downtown's like equidistant between our two big colleges, between LSU and Southern. You're right on the river. Our downtown is gorgeous. The views from most of these rooftops are stunning. I think there's some ingredients there.
Yeah. What's our gumbo look like?
Yeah.
That's what we got to figure out. Because you're right. I mean, I work downtown every day now. We got our office intentionally downtown on 3rd Street. And the selling point was the view of the river. Great view. It's a treasure. But we get stuff done.
Now, after work, you want to drink, you want to hang out, just take a load off, take a debrief. What's your downtown situation? Or you want to host someone?
Yeah.
Someone's coming and take them out to lunch. Talk to me. What's your downtown?
So if it's a Monday, we found out that it's not. Monday is the day the bars are closed.
That seems to be like a Louisiana tradition.
Like it's Sunday and Monday they're closed, which there are 2 days off. And so for me, we're at 3rd and Laurel. We're in the Romaine building, which is arguably the first skyscraper in Baton Rouge. I say arguably because there's some discussion around if it's actually the first skyscraper and if 6 stories warrants a skyscraper. And I tell people, well, 1918, you go build me a 6-story building. But nevertheless, there's a spot right there on Laurel and 3rd called Cecilia. Louisiana cuisine. So good. It's a great lunch spot. And it's, again, we've got great food here in Baton Rouge. And it's like you tuck in off of 3rd and you like walk in and you're like, okay, I feel like I'm in Louisiana. Like it's an owned Louisiana vibe. And so I go there. You've got a staple, which is Faye's Salad and Subs right there on 3rd too. Phenomenal quick sandwich spot that is so military with how they take their orders and process it, but it's just good.
Haven't been to either.
So you got to try them both.
I can't wait.
There's Hot Stuff, which is like underneath a building in like a basement. Really good food, too, like home diner style food, like 1980s films on the TVs. Like you literally feel like you're walking into a diner, and that movie that's on the TV is like a new movie.
Here for that.
It's great. And so like all these little hidden nuggets are down and sprinkled in throughout Baton Rouge, and then you got like 2nd Story. that's a great cocktail bar after Monday. That is a great spot to go to, you know? And so you've got a few different options. Club Violet, which is now trying to build a night scene there. They're doing what they can, and it's kind of like revitalizing a little bit with different restaurateurs and figuring out what that space should be. But then you also have the balance of it's such a shared residential environment too. So you can't really have a super loud environment downtown when you have a high-rise apartment complex across the street. Nobody would live there. You know, we saw that with Happy's, right? You had a phenomenal establishment, big, loud band stage, was too loud. And amongst other things. But I think we have room for growth. I think we have a spot where we've got to figure out what we want to own. And if we're the workhorse, let's just be the workhorse and do, like you said, Silicon Valley does, and just own it and showcase to the world. It's who we are. It's what we're here to do. So I know you're 30 days in. I'm excited to see what you have to build here at Nexus, and we're going to follow you along the way, man.
It means a lot. You're 260 episodes in. You've seen a lot of stories. I want to figure out what the future of Patty G is. You're becoming like a media empire.
We're trying. We're trying to build it out here. Trying to build out a Baton Rouge and really just be some type of sounding board that entrepreneurs and business leaders can say, yeah, here's how I got to where I am. Oh, and we did it here.
Have you uploaded your 260 episodes in the ChatGPT yet?
No. I don't know what it would do.
You should create a Patty G bot. Like Patty GPT.
Patty GPT. How could you? I don't even. I'm not technical, Tony. I don't know how to do that.
You should come to Ignition. I'm not joking. Like, we can turn you into like a media beast. To
what end? What will we accomplish? What are we setting out to accomplish?
I think that people could have conversations with all of your 260 guests at the same time, as they're trying to figure out, should they start new businesses? Should they come to Baton Rouge? Like, that's a really interesting body of work you've compiled. Should take you like a weekend. Could be a weekend project.
It's for you.
No, for you.
No. I'm saying, like, with your skills, you could do it in a weekend.
No,
there's no way I could do that in a weekend.
No, it's gotten easier. The only challenge would be kind of just file sizes.
See, the trouble with Jay and I were just having this conversation this afternoon. I think over the last 2 years, he's been collecting the data. We've got about 2 terabytes. I have 15.
1 year, 5 terabytes.
I'm sorry, 1 year, 5 terabytes. I have another 3 terabytes that he doesn't even have.
Oh, you gotta feed all that in, man. You're gonna learn some stuff. You're gonna teach us some stuff.
I won't.
You can license that. You can license that to LSU Business School.
Make a curriculum out of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they use it. They've used it for courses where if they didn't have a guest speaker, the professor just said, go pick a Patty G episode, listen it, and write your report on that.
Come on. Oh, come on, man. This should be like the whole Welcome to Baton Rouge, you know? That's a recruitment tool.
I'm trying. We're trying to work with some organizations around here to use their microphone for what we've created.
You gotta make a pitch deck. One slide.
What's the slide?
Patty GPT. That's it. It's like mic drop.
I should send that and just have that as the email attachment. Just that one slide. Just send it out to everybody and say, look, let's do this. Boom. Patty GPT.
Done.
All right, now you're swaying me.
Done. Tell me, man. Got to give people what they want. People want to be able to chat with all these people you've brought on. I'm personally really interested to be able to interrogate what Baton Rouge is and what it could be based on all these conversations you had. It just speaks to kind of how fascinating of a time it is for us to be living and be in technology.
Yeah, like that could be a possibility, or that is a possibility that we could create.
Like, honestly, like 8 to 5 hackathon, like that could be
All
done.
right. I promise I will lose to the 9th graders, but I'll compete. I'll give it my all.
You should apply for the Technology Cup
In June?
Yeah. Yep. Apply for the software track and the open track.
Mm-hmm.
And the product you've built that you'll demonstrate is Patty GPT.
Patty GPT.
Yeah. We'll have a panel of judges. Even if you don't take home the gold, silver, or bronze, I think that the audience will be fascinated by this. That event, by the way, it's not open to the public. It's invite only.
So is this a public invitation to Patty G for?
This
Patty
is a
GPT?
public invitation to the invite only event for Patty G.
For Patty GPT, but only if I showcase Patty GPT.
I think you might have some other tricks up your sleeve, but I think that's like a certified winner.
No. I think that's the opening slide. That's the cover slide, and then I just have it write its own self. Have it pull the video clips and make the pitch of the guests on the show. I'm not saying a word. I'm making the guests video create the pitch.
Could you imagine Governor Landry talking to Patty GPT?
And then being responded by business leaders.
Right. Could you imagine Coach Sid like on his phone, like talking to Patty GPT about like trying to help brainstorm?
I like it.
There's something here, man.
I like it.
You're in Nexus, man.
I know.
We build stuff.
We build
This
technology.
This is what we do.
Oh, I love it. Well, now you've got my gears turning. So we're going to take this offline, y'all. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll be back here next week, maybe with Patty GPT. You never know. But stay tuned. Follow us along. And take another look at Nexus. Tony's shaking things up, and I'm here for it. We'll see y'all.